Sarah was always drawn to antique shops, and on this particular day, she stumbled upon a small store tucked away in a back alley. As she browsed the shelves, her eyes caught sight of an old camera that looked like it had been untouched for years. The shopkeeper noticed her interest and approached her. "Ah, I see you've found my special camera. It's quite unique, you know. It has the power to capture images of events before they happen." Sarah was skeptical but intrigued. She asked the shopkeeper how it worked, and he simply replied, "Just take a photo, and you'll see." Without hesitation, Sarah purchased the camera and went home to try it out. She took a photo of her cat, and to her surprise, the next day, the cat went missing. She thought it was a coincidence until she took a photo of a coworker and found out he had died in a car accident the following day. Sarah was horrified but couldn't resist the thrill of predicting the future. She became obsessed with taking pictures of people trying to change their fate. But no matter how hard she tried, every photo she took predicted a violent death. As the days passed, Sarah became paranoid and afraid to take any more pictures. But the camera seemed to have a mind of its own and would randomly snap photos without her even touching it. She tried to get rid of the camera, but it kept reappearing, no matter how many times she threw it away. One day, while Sarah was taking a stroll in the park, she heard a commotion behind her. A man was chasing her, and she knew he meant to do her harm. She pulled out the camera and took his picture. The man stopped in his tracks and looked at the photo, confused. Suddenly, he collapsed and died on the spot. Sarah realized that the camera wasn't predicting death but causing it. She had unknowingly become a killer. She tried to destroy the camera once and for all, but it wouldn't budge. It seemed to have a life of its own. As Sarah sat in her apartment, surrounded by the bodies of those she had inadvertently killed, she knew what she had to do. She took one last photo, this time of herself, and waited for her inevitable fate. The camera clicked, and Sarah's vision went dark. When she opened her eyes again, she found herself standing in the antique shop, holding the camera. Once upon a time, there was a woman named Rachel who lived alone in a small house in the countryside. One night, while she was watching TV, her phone rang. She answered it, but there was no one on the other end. She assumed it was just a wrong number and hung up. But the phone rang again, and this time there was a deep, raspy voice on the other end. "Hello, Rachel," the voice said. "I've been watching you." Rachel's heart skipped a beat. She didn't recognize the voice, but it sent shivers down her spine. "Who are you?" she asked. "That doesn't matter," the voice replied. "What matters is that you're going to die." Rachel was terrified. She tried to hang up, but the caller wouldn't let her. The voice kept taunting her, telling her how he was going to kill her and how she couldn't escape. Finally, Rachel managed to break free and ran to the front door to check the locks. They were all locked, and there was no sign of anyone outside. She was about to call the police when the phone rang again. "Hello, Rachel," the voice said. "Did you check the locks?" Rachel froze. How did the caller know that she had just checked the locks? She hung up and ran to the kitchen to grab a knife. She was going to defend herself if she had to. Suddenly, she heard a noise coming from upstairs. She crept up the stairs, holding the knife tightly, and opened the door to her bedroom. There was no one there. But then she heard a faint ringing coming from inside the closet. She approached it cautiously and slowly opened the door. Inside, she found her own phone, with the caller still on the line. Suddenly, she realized that the calls had been coming from inside her own house. She turned around, and there he was, a man with a knife in his hand, standing right behind her. "Game over, Rachel," he said with a grin. Rachel screamed and lunged at him with the knife. The two struggled, but in the end, Rachel managed to stab the man in the chest. He fell to the ground, lifeless.